Once upon a time, in an African village called Owo-Oke, there lived a lady named Iyabo. In this village, a woman's beauty was defined by how slender her waist was. The slimmer a woman's waist, the more attractive she was considered by the men. When Iyabo was a little girl, she had a normal weight just like every other girl her age. However, as she grew older, she developed an uncontrollable eating habit. There was no portion of food that Iyabo could not finish. She would clear her plate in no time, no matter how much food she was served. It was not long before she became the fattest lady in the entire village of Owo-Oke. As Iyabo gained more and more weight, all the men in the village stopped admiring her or even asking her out on dates. One by one, all her female friends got married, leaving only the fat Iyabo still living in her father's house, growing older with each passing day. Her father, Mr. Shogun, became very worried that his daughter would never find a husband. Iyabo's younger sisters had all gotten married and were living happily with their husbands. Only Iyabo was left behind, still single and unmarried. This weighed heavily on Mr. Shogun's mind. As the caring father that he was, he took it upon himself to look for a suitable husband for his daughter Iyabo before it was too late. One day, Mr. Shogun heard that the son of one of his good friends, a young man named Tayo, who had just returned to the village after living in the city for many years, was looking to take a wife. Excited at this golden opportunity, Mr. Shogun quickly told his friend all about his daughter Iyabo. A date was fixed for Tayo to come and meet Iyabo with the intent of possibly marrying her. When Iyabo heard about the potential husband visiting, she was overjoyed. Could this finally be her chance to get married, like all her friends and sisters? The night before Tayo's visit, the excited Iyabo spent hours dressing and grooming herself beautifully in preparation to meet her would-be husband. The next day, Tayo arrived at Iyabo's family compound. But as soon as he set his eyes on the very fat Iyabo, his face fell in disappointment. This was clearly not the beautiful woman he had imagined marrying. "I cannot marry this mountain of a woman," Tayo said rudely, staring at Iyabo's large body in disgust. Without another word, he turned and left the compound. Iyabo was utterly heartbroken. All the joy and excitement she had felt moments ago faded away instantly. She went back to her room, locked the door, and cried uncontrollably for days. "I will die single and alone. No man will ever want to marry me," she cried over and over again. After spending days cooped up crying in her room, Iyabo finally got tired of hiding away and feeling depressed. There had to be a solution to her problem, she thought. She knew exactly where to turn. She would visit the great river goddess. Iyabo left the house and walked through the village until she reached the river's edge. Taking a deep breath, she called out in a loud voice, "Great river goddess, please hear my call and comfort. I am in dire need of your assistance." As if by magic, the river surface began to bubble and churn. Then an incredibly beautiful woman with shining blue skin emerged from the churning waters. It was the river goddess herself. "What can I do for you, young lady?" the river goddess asked. "Please, great goddess, make me slim and beautiful like the other ladies my age," Iyabo pleaded, tears filling her eyes again. "All the men in the village have rejected me because of my body size. All my friends are married, and here I am, still unwanted and alone. Please help me become slim so I can find a husband to marry me, I beg of you." The river goddess regarded Iyabo with a look of pity and understanding. "My dear, you are beautiful just the way you are. You must learn to love yourself, despite what others may think. However, I will assist you. Before the next market day, you will find a man who will love you, cherish you, and take you as his wife. This I promise." Iyabo thought about what the river goddess had said. The promise of finally finding a husband was thrilling, but this was not enough for Iyabo anymore. Her face hardened with hatred and anger. First, she began, "I want all the men in this village that rejected and humiliated me all these years to suffer. I want them to pay for all the pain that they put me through with their cruel words and look of disgust." The river goddess was silent for a moment. Then she simply said, "It is done. Your wish is granted." The next morning, a great confusion broke out in the village of Owo-Oke. All the men awoke to find their manhoods had completely vanished overnight. No explanation could be found for why their male organs had mysteriously disappeared. Panicked, the men rushed to consult the village juju priest, a man considered to have great mystical powers and knowledge of the spirit world. It was he who gave the men the shocking answer for their plight after consulting his oracle. "It is Iyabo, the fat woman, who has taken away all your manhoods as an act of revenge for the humiliation and rejection she had suffered at your hands for so many years," the juju priest proclaimed. "The only way for your manhoods to be restored is for every man to sleep with Iyabo. Until then, you all will remain as you are, incomplete men." A collective groan went through the crowd of men as they realized their fate. The juju priest's words were absolute. If they wanted to be made whole again, they would have to sleep with the fattest, most undesirable woman in the village. It was a devastating blow to their egos, but the men had no choice. One by one, they lined up outside Iyabo's hut, waiting for their turn to sleep with the woman they had scorned for so long. Surprisingly, despite their initial repulsion, Iyabo appeared instantly attractive to the men the moment they stepped into her hut to lay with her. The men would literally spend hours upon hours copulating with Iyabo. Their manhoods will become energetic and insatiable when with her, yet totally inactive and limp when they tried to lay with their wives or any other woman in the village. They were powerless against the hold Iyabo had over them. For Iyabo, it was a total bliss and vindication. This was everything she had always dreamed about, to be desired by every man, to be seen as the most beautiful and lusted after woman in the village instead of a fat, undesirable one. The wives tried everything to lure their husbands back, even threatening to leave them, but the men simply could not pull themselves away from Iyabo's intoxicating and bewitching spell. After many days of torment, the fed-up wives finally went to the juju priest, demanding that he must find a way to break their husbands free from Iyabo's curse and restore their manhoods once and for all. There must be some kind of counter spell that can overpower this dark magic Iyabo has employed. They pleaded with the juju priest. "Our homes and families are being torn apart. You have to help us." The juju priest, taking pity on these women, cast his bones and consulted his mystical oracle once more. After several long moments and some wiggling of his nose, he finally spoke. "Yes, there is a way to break this curse over your husbands," he said. "You must take this pot that possesses ancient magic." He handed the wives a small pot. "Spread the contents around Iyabo's hut, and she will fall into a deep sleep. Then chant this counter curse phrase I will teach you. The spell over your men will be dissolved. Their manhoods and ability to desire other women will instantly be restored." The wives crushed the pot in their hands like it was the most precious jewel in the world. They quickly learned the counter curse phrase from the juju priest, thanking him for his help. That night, while the men were once again in Iyabo's hut, the wives set their plan into motion. Under the darkness, they crept into Iyabo's compound silently. With steady hands, the wives carefully spread the white powder in the pot around Iyabo's hut. Inside, Iyabo lay in the center of the hut, on a mat, deep asleep, surrounded by the slumbering body of their husbands and lover. Then quickly they chanted the ancient counter curse phrase 3 times, just as the juju priest had instructed. At first, nothing seemed to happen, But then the men woke up, shaking their heads as if waking from a trance. Their eyes went wide as they realized where they were and what they had been doing. "My wife, forgive me. I did not mean to stray." Some dark power was controlling me. They started exclaiming as they rushed back to their respective wives' arms. The spell had indeed been broken. Word spread rapidly through the village of the curse being dissolved and Iyabo's hold over the men destroyed. The husbands and wives rejoiced in being reunited again. As for Iyabo, she awoke the next day feeling confused and dizzy, with no memory of the previous night's event. When she tried calling out to the men who had so eagerly satisfied her desire just a day ago, she was met with silence. The men had all returned to their wives, refusing to look even in Iyabo's direction now that her spell over them had been broken. Realizing that the curse she had enacted upon the village menfolk through the river goddess had somehow been undone, Iyabo knew there was only one person who could provide answers. She had to return to the river and try to find the river goddess once more. Without wasting time, Iyabo ran through the village to the river bank. When she arrived, she began to call out the river goddess' name. "Great river goddess, please come forth and speak to me. I am in need of your assistance." But despite Iyabo's repeated pleas, the river goddess did not appear. She cried out for what felt like days, sitting by the river banks, but the river goddess never showed herself. Iyabo could not understand why the river goddess had abandoned her. Was it because the river goddess was angered that the curse she enacted had been broken? Was it her wish for all the men to desire her instead of finding a husband she had always wanted? As the days turned into weeks, Iyabo was forced to accept the harsh reality. The river goddess will never appear to her again. The bitterly disappointed and heartbroken woman had no choice but to return to her village with no answer and no prospect of ever finding a husband. Iyabo realized too late that she should have stuck to her initial wish to simply find a husband rather than bewitch lust. Her moment of vengeance and her greed for more had cost her the chance at a real loving marriage that the river goddess seemed to have been offering. And so it was that for the rest of her days, Iyabo lived out her life as the village's loneliest fat woman. The story of Iyabo is a morality tale. It is an example of how destructive anger, greed, and obsession over societal beauty standards could be if left to fester on one's heart. Though Iyabo was a victim of cruelty for years due to her body size and shape, her lashing out in such a spiteful way brought her no true happiness or fulfillment in the end. The lesson from this story can be found in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, verse 23. It says, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." Thanks for watching, and I will see you in my next story.